Hi, I'm Reed Silverne. The name of this show is Fed Pride. The reason it's called Fed Pride is because I'm a federal worker and proud of it. Today I'm going to talk a little bit about a number of things, but it's now today Friday, and it's the 5th of May, which of course is Cinco de Mayo. And I want to say Feliz Cinco de Mayo to all of our Mexican-American friends out there. Apparently September 21st is the real holiday in Mexico. That's the real Independence Day. And Cinco de Mayo, oddly enough, is a holiday celebrating a battle against the United States. So that's what it is. Oh no, actually it's a battle against the French. Sorry about that. And of course that's something that we can all join in on and all be proud of, that the Mexicans defeated the French. So happy Cinco de Mayo. Anybody out there who wants to lift a heavy one or a light one in that regard, that's great. I know it looks like I have a Cinco de Mayo celebration out there, but I don't. As you know, I've been going to the web and putting on live webcams behind me lately, and this one is South Padre Island, which is a beach resort in Texas, and that's about the best I could do. But it looks like a lot of people having a lot of fun. If you look behind me, you'll see at least one palm tree blowing around in the wind, and it refreshes often, and it looks interesting with lots and lots of people. I hope that's distracting, and that's fine with me. Just before I came in, I've been listening to the radio news, and the head of the CIA, Goss, just resigned or got fired, as the case may be. It's hard to say which. As part of the big turnover. Who is Goss? Goss was a congressman who was an ex-CIA agent, and he was rewarded, I guess, a Republican congressman, by being made the head of the CIA just about the same time they stood up the Director of Central Intelligence, or the DCI, who is Negroponte and in charge of the entire intelligence community. Goss was put in charge of the CIA. And from what I've been hearing, and of course what I've been hearing is probably not from people who are friendly to him, he came in, brought all of his cronies from his House staff as people over the line CIA agents who've been there for who knows how long, and proceeded to alienate everybody who's just a regular federal employee. So it looks like morale became lower and lower and lower, and now there's been conflicts between him and Negroponte, the head of the intelligence community, but mostly between him and Rumsfeld, who has its own intelligence agencies, like the Defense Intelligence Agency, the DIA, and also various intelligence agencies are associated with each of the military services. So we have a situation where Rumsfeld was out to get him, his new boss was out to get him, he wasn't liked by his own people, or at least by his own agency, and he just left. What was the reason? Nobody said. Everybody seems to think, though, that there'll be a wholesale cleaning out there in CIA, and all of these guys that he brought in are going to leave. Am I crying about that? Absolutely not. I just hope that the same thing can be done in the Defense Department, and that our good friend Donald Rumsfeld, who I talked about last week, would take the cue and resign for his own family reasons as well. I think that would be great, but only if it's followed up by a house cleaning of everybody that Rumsfeld has appointed, and everybody who owes their job to Rumsfeld. Because Rumsfeld, one can say a lot of things about Rumsfeld, but nobody could say that he's handled his job well. And I haven't heard anybody. I've heard his defenders. I've heard his defenders in Congress, Frist, and so on and so forth. I've heard his defenders in the ex-generals. They found 3 out of 4,500 who would actually get on TV to defend him. I'm sure they called a lot more. And of course, two of the three are Tommy Franks, who ran the original war effort and then retired in 2000, I think 2003 or maybe early 2004. And of course, General Myers, who was the chief of staff who carried out every single lousy decision that Rumsfeld made. So the president, who's at about 32%, I don't know that he thinks that getting rid of Porter Goss is going to help that. I'm not sure how many people in America really know who Porter Goss is. It may help the CIA and improve our intelligence to get rid of a guy who obviously doesn't have the love and respect of his own troops, and who brings in a bunch of his own followers and direct followers and people with experience in Congress but not in the agency that he's in charge of to lord it over an entire group of very, very skilled people. According to one senior congressional person in the Congressional Oversight Service, they've lost thousands of years of experience, which means that when somebody leaves who's been around in an agency for 20 or 30 years, that's 30 years of experience there. So if 300 people left, that's 1,000 years of experience. And if they've lost thousands, then a lot of the older people, who are probably retirement age anyway, are probably leaving and saying, I've had it with this. I don't want to be ruled by people who don't seem to know what they're doing. I don't want to have people in charge who want to shake up my agency and who don't seem to know what they're talking about or what they're doing. Now, I'm not saying that Porter Goss is that bad. He obviously was a former CIA agent. He also is a conservative Republican. He should have had very, very close ties with Congress, which should have been a plus. But if you're going to go in there and you're going to go and clean house in an agency, first of all, you better be competent, and not just competent, but charismatic. And secondly, if you're going to bring your cronies in above people's heads, if you're not going to promote anybody who's already been there, if you're going to come in with an attitude that everybody who's already there is wrong, has screwed things up, and are stupid, well, things don't quite work out. I'm not saying that's what happened. I don't have any knowledge of that particular agency. I don't really know anybody who works for them. I only know what I watch on TV and read in the news. I do think that Negroponte, who is in charge of the entire intelligence community, seems to have been doing a pretty good job of fending off these bureaucratic attacks from Rumsfeld, who's been trying to take over always, no matter how inept he is at the span of control that he has. He's always trying to expand it. He's always trying to jump into somebody else's shorts, take over somebody else's little job. However, I think it's very sad that of all the people that have left, McClellan, one of the secretaries of the Treasury, the head of the CIA, that they go and Rumsfeld always stays. And that's because Rumsfeld actually was a mentor of Dick Cheney and now is being mentored and protected by Dick Cheney. And I think that there you have that little power behind the power that's been said from the investigation of Libby and the Fitzgerald investigation who looked into things, that Cheney has his own shadow National Security Council that undermined Rice and also undermined Colin Powell during the run-up to the two wars, really, the war in Afghanistan and the war in Iraq, and that little group has kind of all gotten together, Rumsfeld is one of them, and made some of the mistakes that caused us to get mired in a war. Now, to be honest with you, and I am, I'm for the war in Iraq. I want to win the war in Iraq. But I believe sincerely that as long as this gigantic 10,000-pound dead weight is astride our effort, and that dead weight is named Donald Rumsfeld, we are never, ever going to win that war. And I think we owe it to our troops and we owe it to the people in harm's way to have the best possible management, the best possible generalship, over that war effort, and that we need to go in there and we need to catch Zarqawi, and we need to catch the really heavy, big-time insurgents. We need to find al-Duri, who's the last real bigwig in the old Ba'athist regime, who's been behind the scenes and supplying arms and money to a lot of the insurgents. We haven't done any of those things. We need to stand up the Iraqi army. We need to stand up the Iraqi police force. And we need to prevent a civil war over there. And the best way to prevent a civil war is the way we prevented a civil war in the Balkans when we stabilized that area, is that America and whoever is behind America is just so powerful and just so potentially powerful, I guess, I said the same thing twice, that nobody could dare cause trouble. And of course we don't have that. And of course, because we don't have that, not just the insurgents, but now Shiite militiamen are slashing people's throats and bodies are being found left and right. And that's not the way to win this war. We need stability, but the best way to have stability is to make sure that all sides fear a neutral party. That neutral party is our military. And that our military, while there, and if we're going to be there, is so strong and so powerful and so in the know of what's going on there that nobody dares make some trouble. And of course, that's the opposite of what Rumsfeld did when we first got in there. He let chaos reign. He let them steal all of the bomb-making equipment and all of the munitions out of the Ba'athist bases, and of course let them organize. Didn't secure any borders at all, and actually turned back American troops that were already due to come in. And of course, the worst thing is that first Battle of Fallujah, when the Marines had Zarqawi surrounded in Fallujah. And this is not late November of 2004. This is around April, I think March and April of 2004, after those contractors were hung from the bridge. The Marines engaged, and they had Zarqawi surrounded. Rumsfeld pulled them back, forced them to lose a battle that they had invested 50 killed, and many, many Marines wounded. And there's a lot of Marines that still, to this day, despise Rumsfeld for that decision. And of course, that's back in the CPA, all the other fools and goons that kind of messed up the first phase of the war. Second phase of the war, Negroponte came in as the ambassador, followed by Khalilzad, and the State Department started organizing a government and organizing some elections and bringing in the UN, bringing in other outside forces, and bringing in some legitimacy to the situation over there. However, all the legitimacy in the world is not going to do much good if there's not security. And that, of course, was Rumsfeld's job, and it still is, and he is never going to rise to that job. Okay, what else am I going to talk about? Well, anybody who drives a car, and most people do, anybody who commutes around town, most people do, anybody who rides a freeway, and most people do, have recently gone to the gas station and picked up some gas. What is it out there? Again, you're going to be watching this 2 days after I do it. So if I say it's $2.89, by that time it's probably $2.95. Some places in the country, in fact, in most of the country, even in Phoenix, it's over $3 a gallon. And of course, you know, they always flash up the sign of the one gas station in the most expensive place in the country. I don't know where it is, probably Silicon Valley, that shows a regular above $4. What is causing it? What's causing it is greed. I'm not going to put it any other way. What we have here is a situation where 3 months before the driving season, traders and I'm saying that with a D, Traders, investors. But who are the futures investors in oil? Well, they're the people that use oil. They're the big oil companies that buy and sell the oil on the market in order to distribute it and bring it. And why would they want the price to be high? Well, I'll tell you, there's a very, very good and easy reason why they want the price to be high. You'd think that if you're buying a commodity, if you're making a copper piping and you have to buy copper, the price of copper goes through the roof, that you're going to have a smaller and smaller profit margin because you want to try to keep your customers. Of course, just the opposite has happened. And I've talked about this in previous shows. Basically, what's happened is from 2002, when the price of crude oil was in the 20s, to 2006, the price of oil, of crude oil, barrel of crude oil, 42 gallons, has gone up to $75 a barrel. Then it's finally started coming down a little bit. Why? Oh, they'll tell you, it's because the Chinese are buying oil. It's because the Indians are buying oil. Their economies are growing and they're buying lots and lots of oil. However, what they're not mentioning is our use of oil has actually dropped. Use of gasoline has dropped 0.6%, and our use of other fossil fuels are being replaced basically by natural gas and coal. So why has this been going up? Well, one of the reasons that the oil companies want to push up the price of oil is very, very simple. It's because a lot of what people don't realize is 5.5 to 6 million barrels a day of oil are actually produced right here in this country. And most of it is produced on federal land or on offshore drilling rigs that are controlled by the federal government. Well, in the last so many years, about 16 to 18 billion dollars of royalties that should be paid by the oil companies for the use of this oil that's being brought up on federal land has been forgiven. And in fact, more of it was forgiven just last year. From the late 1990s until 2002, there was a plan. And of course, this was all part of, actually started before the Bush administration, was aggravated by their energy bill to basically incentivize the oil industry into producing more domestic oil by giving them everything and by taxing them nothing. So that means that if they were able to bring up oil from offshore rigs off Texas at a profit, in 2002, when the oil companies, the 5 big oil companies, made profits of about $34 billion, now the cost of bringing up that oil is exactly the same. But the price of the crude that they can sell it for has gone from $24, $25 to $75. That extra $50 that they bring out from America is pure, utter profit. So the profit of the big 5 oil companies has gone from $34 billion a year to over $100 billion last year and is still rising. And they have the gall to say, oh no, it's not our fault. We're making nothing off of you. But they are. And not only are they making money off of us, on top of that, they're still importing oil as much as they can from people and countries that are our rank and desperate enemies. The most recent of whom that's been added is President Chavez of Venezuela, who is a friend of Castro and an outright dead enemy of the United States. And of course, for whom and about whom the federal government has done nothing. And why? Even though that's in our interests? Well, part of it is because Conoco brings in Petroleus Venezuela oil every single day. And they're making some money on it, but not nearly as much as they make, because every penny of the difference between the price of the pump, or not the price of the pump, but the crude oil price, and the price to bring up out of the ground, most of which is already sunk, so it's very, very small, is pure profit. Pure and utter profit. I just love it. I'm looking at the New York Times over here, and the America's oil and natural gas industry has an ad over here, and they have a picture of a dollar bill. They said, where does your gasoline dollar go? It says 55% to crude oil, 26% to refining, 19% to taxes. What's missing? What's missing is any profit. Of course, in that 55% crude oil, at least the portion that we're bringing up out of the ground and refining in the United States and refining in the United States is complete and total profit, profits of which they pay no taxes. In fact, we give them subsidies to bring oil out of the ground and charge us $75 a barrel. And $75 a barrel is about $1.40 of the $3 that we're paying at the pump. What is anybody doing about this? Well, the only thing that anybody's doing about this, well, they were talking about a windfall profits tax, but that got scotched in Congress. They were talking about treating inventories differently, as in taxing the increased value of inventories. And of course, the biggest increase in the value of inventories in this country right now is oil in the tank. That got squashed. They're not going to vote for it. Then they came up with this brilliant idea of taking $100 and giving everybody $100. Well, that's just great. Now, I'm actually in pretty good shape on the $100 because that fills my tank 3 times, which means that I get to drive for 3 whole weeks and increase the federal deficit by $10 billion. Which is so ridiculous. Why not just charge the oil companies the $10 billion and make them invest them in the United States? Now, I have to compliment one of the worst of the oil companies, and that's Chevron, because Chevron is actually undermining the other big 4 oil companies. How? And this is just great. Chevron is one of the co-owners of ECD, which is the company that built a giant 2 million square foot plant in Ohio to produce hybrid batteries for hybrid cars in order to reduce our usage of oil. So they're trying to make money because they know that eventually the entire fleet of American cars are going to convert at least to hybrid, possibly to ethanol, and that the amount of oil that's imported is going to drop drastically unless it falls right now before the replacements come online. So already the average mileage of a car sold in the United States is increasing rapidly, despite their unwillingness to increase the CAFE standards. And the reason is because people are sick and tired of having a big SUV and having a $75 tank of gas. They can't handle it. I happen to have a very small Japanese-made SUV. I get about 30 miles to the gallon. And if you have the right kind of hybrid, you can have a gigantic SUV and get 30 miles to a gallon. Or you can get a Prius and you get 50 to 60 miles a gallon. Now, they're disputing that. And why are they disputing it? Well, what they've done is they've taken a car and taken it on a freeway from Ohio to New York and said, well, I don't get that good mileage. Well, yes, of course not, because the electrical part of a hybrid setup charges itself when you brake, so it works best in traffic. And of course, they want to readjust, this is great, the mileage standards to make sure that hybrids don't seem like they're getting that good mileage. I love that. My name is Reed Silverne. The name of the show is Fed Pride. The reason it's called Fed Pride is because I'm a federal employee, and I'm proud of it. Behind me is Padre Island, which kind of looks like a Cinco de Mayo festival. Today is Cinco de Mayo, but you won't be seeing it until 7 May or 9 May, depending on when it's shown. So I hope you tuned into my show again, and we'll see you.